Hi, I'm going to show you how to use the VLookUp in Google Spreadsheets. So let's talk about the purpose of the VLookUp. So let's say you have a form and you have a bunch of responses and you have a roster, for example, and there are certain people that you want to make sure they've submitted a form response. So if you look here, this can be my class roster. So I have a roster of 3 students. I have their email address. You need an identifier, so a unique identifier. So the email address is probably the best because people can have the same first and last name. What I basically want to do is if I go to my form responses, and let's say the spreadsheet is filled with a bunch of responses and they're in different orders because people submitted their form at different times. And I'm interested in seeing if red, white, and blue submitted their form responses. This is where you can use VLookUp. What VLookUp is going to do is basically is going to check a particular sheet in a spreadsheet and is going to look for the identifier. So in this example, look for the email address. And then once it has located that email address in a particular column, it is going to reply with information in the same row. So for example, if I read the responses and I was happy with the responses, in a column I can designate as status. And so if I'm happy with their response, I can type done or redo or unacceptable or whatever status I like to check. So then what I need to do on a different sheet, I have to have my roster, and I have to make sure I have the correct email address. Then I'm going to type in the VLookUp script. So you put = VLookUp, your parentheses. Now here you're going to put $B2, and that's saying look for the contents of this cell, so this email address, on the sheet called form responses. So you can see it's form responses here. Got to make sure I put the marks here and there and exclamation mark that tells you that that's the name of the sheet. Now what I want you to do is I want you to look for this email address on this particular sheet, and I want you to search starting at C2 and scan all the way through K113. So I want you to start looking at C2, so start over here, and I want you to scan all the way through K, this last column, all the way down to K113. So we're going to look through all these cells. All right. Then what I want you to do is I want you to report back whatever is in the 9th column starting from the C. So if I go to my C column, the C, so C is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I want you to report back what's in the 9th column. And then we're going to put false, because false tells us that this information can be in any order. So it doesn't have to be red first, then white, then blue. It can be white, then red, then blue, because as we know, people may submit their form at different times. So we want to make sure we put our false, close parentheses. Okay, and you can see that it worked. It said redo, but let's say I change the status to done. Go to my VLookUp, and there it says done. So that's the VLookUp script. The important things you want to know that I didn't explain are these $signs. The $signs tell us that we always want this particular cell or this particular letter or this particular number. So notice here it says B2, $B2. So if I were to copy this script by dragging down, what's going to happen is that it's always, if I go in the second one, it's always going to look for the B column, right? Always look at this email address. But notice I didn't put a $sign before the 3 because I don't want it to always, or in this case 2, I don't want it to always look for B2. If I copy it down, I want it to actually look at B3. And so that's why I didn't put the $ before the 3. But then you look at over here, $C, $2 to $K to $113. Well, that's important because I always want this formula to look at C2. So $C, $2, always start with this, and then the same thing, always go through K113.